Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Coach Malcolm here, and this is going to be my third video in my mini series where I put a puzzle in front of me. I've never seen it before. All I've done is set it up. No engine, no ideas. I haven't even taken a look at it. It is a mate and two puzzle all the time, whites move and mate and two, but they are crazy tricky mate and twos. I like to call them killer mate and twos. They're very difficult. They have to do with, mating nets, looking at squares around the king. So what I do is I walk through my thinking, I walk through my moves. I've had two other videos. The first video I came super close but gave up on a variation right at the end. The second video I found the mate in 3 but not the mate in 2. Again, super close. So I'm here. I'm excited. I feel, refreshed, and I feel like today could be a success. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this mate in 2. And let's get started. Oh, and also this is a study, which means it's not from a real game. You'll notice it's a pretty crazy looking position. They're studies created by almost always grandmasters. And a thing about a study that's important to notice is that every single piece on the board, everything down to the very weirdest pawns. This pawn on c2, I'm absolutely positive it has a purpose in this puzzle. Everything, even if we don't even exactly explicitly say it, they all have a purpose. That's something just kind of interesting about studies in chess. But anyways, let us take a look at this position. The first thing I'm going to look at is the squares around this king. Obviously, we know he can't go to the squares where his own pieces are in the way. This pawn on c2, already we have a job for it, guarding these two key squares, b3 and d3. d4 is guarded by the bishop and the knight as well. The knight over here, which is the square of the kings, one of the 8 squares around him, is guarded by the bishop and the rook. I know we've got a lot of arrows, but I'm just showing the squares around the king. And then, right, c5 is guarded by the pawn, and d5 is an escape square. So black can't go to d5 right now, and they have, obviously, the safe square c4 that they're on right now. So we need to get a checkmate in 2. So how should we go about doing this? It almost looks like this knight d6 move is checkmate, but it's not because of this key king takes d5 escape square, which is unfortunate for us. Let's just notice if we wanted to, we could promote. That's a crazy idea. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. We shall, we're going to see. Alright, so what could we do? One of the first things I would look at is a move like king e5. And what's my thinking with king e5? Well, I'm threatening knight d6 checkmate, right? And not only knight d6 checkmate, something like knight a3 checkmate, because it's going to be a double check with our bishop and our knight at the same time. So I'm guarding d5. So, let's say they played a move like bishop takes d5. Knight a3 is going to be checkmate, but I think what sometimes happens in these main twos is you have to look at every move, and queen h2 is a check here, and that means I have to get out of check. Either I move my king or I take back, which means my second move wasn't checkmate, right? So we can't bend these rules whatsoever. They're strict rules. It has to be a mate in 2. So king e5, not the right idea, and I can't move my king anymore to get to this d5 square, right? Because e6 is covered by the bishop on g8. Okay, so what is another idea that we could try? Let us take a look. We could, the thing is, the key, I just am noticing the very key thing about this is going to be this d5 pawn, making sure if the king goes there, then he's going to get checkmated on d5, or making sure that, d5 is covered as an escape square for that king during this puzzle. So if we obviously you can take the queen here, but right, we're looking for mate in 2s. I don't think we're going to find something here. I feel like even if sort of a nothing move happens, I don't think we have... Oh, we do have a checkmate here. We have queen takes e4, checkmate. So after queen takes h1, they do have to guard this pawn. But let's say they just played a move like bishop h7, guarding that e4 pawn. It looks difficult, right? We have to attack these 2 squares with a single move. Are we going to be able to do that? You'd like to do a move maybe like knight c7. You can't do knight c3 because then the king is just going to take back. But I don't believe there is a checkmate in 1 here. So queen takes h1, not looking like the thing to do in this particular puzzle, okay? Alright, so what could we try instead? We could try giving a check first. So we could try this knight a3 double check. After the king runs to d5, now we look for checkmate. The squares what are the squares we have to guard? We just have to check this king and guard this c6 square. Is this going to be doable? I don't see a checkmate in 1 here. This bishop, isn't able to get to a square like b7. So I don't see anything. Something like this, right? This king has... oh, he doesn't have c6. Sorry, because of this knight. This king has d6 instead. So I totally said that incorrectly. It's these 2 squares instead. It's d6 and d5. Do we have a move that sort of helps with both of those? It doesn't look like it. Unfortunately, our queen can't really get into the game here. get some play done. Okay, so another idea that I just want to consider is maybe trying to get some promotion in, okay? So let's say we promoted, I don't think, right, we might have looked at queen promotion. I don't think we did. But after queen promotion, if we just play even like a move just like queen takes g2, checkmate here is difficult, right? Because we're still trying to get these two squares with a single move. We need our knight on a square like e3, or I mean the bishop guards b6, so this is very tricky. And again, I don't see a checkmate in this position. But I'm looking at what if we promoted to a knight instead, okay? So if we promote to a knight, trying to threaten something with d6, but still it looks like, you know, d5 is hard to cover. I don't know if we're still going to be able to find any sort of checkmate here. Oh, well, you know what did happen is once this pawn promotes, now knight c7 is a big threat, okay? Because knight c7 guards this d5 square. So this is very interesting to look at. So if we go back to our old knight, queen takes g2, knight c7 is boom, checkmate, okay? So pawn promoting to a knight, interesting idea. I'm just going to look at a range of moves, okay? If they they don't have a lot of squares for their bishop. If they take, well, this is tricky. Oh no, but we have this slick knight b6 check. If bishop b6, okay, knight b6 checkmate. Sorry, checkmate, not check. So this bishop is guarding this key square b6. You pull it away from that. Perfect. We have our checkmate. This rook has no moves. If this bishop does something like taking, we're still going to have our checkmate, knight d6. Any of these squares for this bishop, still checkmate. So now let us look at some pawn moves because we cannot forget about these. What if something like pawn to b3 happens? This is suddenly super annoying. But it looks like we actually still have our checkmate, knight c7 checkmate. Our rook does a great job still covering that b file. Okay, I'm feeling a little confident about this answer, but I'm going to keep looking at everything. Any of these pawn moves aren't going to hold any significance. Either knight coming to c6 is d6. Sorry, is going to be. Oh well, if this pawn moves, knight d6 is going to be checkmate because now our queen guards d5. I believe if we just move the other knight to d6. Oh, we don't have checkmate here. Oh, because this square opens up. Okay. Well, this is interesting to look at then. Not queen, right? We're looking at our knight variation. Sorry, it got all flipped around. If pawn push, we have to go with the promoted knight to d6 because now we have to keep this knight guarding d4. If we go the other way, like we just saw, if this knight goes, it's not a mate in 2. But we still have our mate in 2 intact because of this knight d6 move. Either one of these pawns moves. Guys, I'm being so thorough with this position just because my last position, I thought I perfectly had it. I missed a single super, very hard to see pawn move, so I want to make sure I have it. Either of these pawns move. No, not this knight. We're going to have knight c7 checkmate, so that's not a viable option. And now let us take just a good look at this queen. I want to make sure she has no options whatsoever. We already looked at queen takes g2. Then we get knight c7 checkmate, okay? I don't know what this queen could possibly do. Oh, queen h2 is interesting to look at, okay? Because, I mean, we're guarding this knight on c7. But still, guys, remember, this is a discovered check. You got to be focused on the bishop. So, knight c7 checkmate, right? But what if, here's what I'm looking at now, is queen to a3. Queen a1. So now attacking this bishop. So now if knight c7, queen takes a6, it's not going to be checkmate in this case. If we try a double check like this, it looks like king takes d5 is the answer. Oof, I hope we are not stumped. Boom, we are not stumped. Queen takes e4. If that queen leaves h1 and she doesn't go to e1 or h4, she is leaving this e4 square completely stranded. There's our checkmate. Queen takes e4. All right. I don't know. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm nervous to turn on this engine, test out our knight promotion answer, because the last puzzles, as you guys saw, if you watch those other videos, if you want to watch those other videos after this one, check them out. But I came very close both times, and I missed like one move each time that I couldn't find. But I am feeling pretty confident about this one. I don't know what my opponent would do. I'm going to test it out, okay? Let's put it into the engine. Pawn promote to a knight. That is the feeling of victory. Pawn promote to a knight. Any move whatsoever. We've already gone over this. Knight c7 checkmate. Unbelievable. That is a crazy mate in 2, right? Promoting to a knight, allowing us to get this d6 square. If we want to review, right, any move that they play, knight c7 is going to be checkmate. Super cool, right? Like I said, every piece has a purpose. This pawn pushes. Now our queen guards d5. Knight d6 is going to be checkmate, like the computer is telling us. Any move whatsoever. This queen moves away. Our queen was key here. Also, that black queen was key on h1. Queen takes e4. There is our checkmate. We've already looked at all of these, so we don't need to go over them again. But like I said, this is a study, guys. So every piece on this board, even every pawn, like we saw, this b pawn, after pawn promotes, the b pawn moves. This rook is opened up, right? This rook has a role guarding this b file. Every single move, this pawn promotes to a knight, and we have our forced mate in two. So why are these puzzles so hard, right? Why have I struggled with some these mate in twos? Because there's so many different variations we have to look at. Even just with this pawn promotion move, which wasn't the first move I looked at because it's not my first instinct to think to promote to a knight. There's so many different variations. I literally went through every single piece. We found like either 3 or 4 different checkmating patterns that we could find. So that's why these studies are so genius. I will say this puzzle may have been a little easier than the 2 I was doing previously. Maybe you guys have thoughts on that. But obviously, you know, I had no idea because, like I said, I just put the puzzle on the board. And then whatever happens, happens. You know, I just look up pretty much just on the internet, hardest mate in 2 puzzles, find some information, and put the puzzle on the board without looking at the answer. But on top of these videos trying to just be productive for mating nets, looking for squares around the king, being able to calculate different variations and see multiple checkmate threats at once, I think what was important about this series was just seeing me struggle a little bit, and that's weird to say, but it's because, you know, chess is an incredibly difficult game, right? It's incredibly difficult. All your coaches that you have, chess is not an easy game for them, right? Chess is incredibly difficult no matter what level you are at, and chess, like a big thing about chess is sort of the mental game, right? So in a lot of the videos, I went through different variations, and I went through one that was the answer, and then I stopped, and I went back because, you know, I gave up on it, or the other video, I didn't look at everything. So these are all just sort of, it's obviously hard to play in faster games, but in slower games, doing these ideas, testing out a whole range of different moves, a whole range of different ideas, so you just have different options until hopefully you find that one option. Obviously, every position isn't just a mate in 2 puzzle, but being able to, you know, take the time, follow through on variations, not give up too easily, and look for these super sneaky moves like c8, promote to a knight, is really important to chess, and it will take anyone's chess to the next level. I know doing these puzzles has allowed me to become better at calculating just by doing these 3 because it's all about practice. So if you've stuck with it for all 3 videos, incredible. I hope you enjoyed them. If you're just on this video, perfect. I hope you liked it as well. Feel free to go to the others. If you don't, that is perfectly fine. But this concludes my absolutely crazy mate in 2 monologue, puzzle solving, oral presentation, whatever you want to call it. Maybe I'll be back for more in the future. I'm going to take a break from it now. These are kind of draining, but that is it for today, everybody. Thank you so much.